Welcome to the What Now podcast, where we document our journey through chiropractic. Our goal is to give you, the new chiropractor, our firsthand experience in running a principled, cash-based practice right out of school. Join us as we bring you real perspective, lessons learned, and the leading names in the profession as we build the practices of our dreams. Yo, everybody. What is up? Welcome back to another episode of the What Now podcast. Spencer and Zach are back in the studio. What's up, Zach? How are you doing today, man?
What a do boo boo back in the booth. Always a pleasure. Always an honor.
Those are always good. So, what's up? How are you doing? Let's tell the people what you got going on this week.
Yeah, man. So in case you haven't gotten tired of me talking about it, week 4, I guess, of 75 hard.
Yep.
So yesterday was probably the hardest day, just to get everything in. Just kind of pedal to the floor. Got in late from a flight to California, so I made the mistake of sleeping in, and not doing my movement then, which then forced me to get my 45-minute walk in at 10 o'clock last night. By the time I finally got back from church, small group, and dinner, and all those types of things. So definitely tested me, but we made it through. And you know, I don't want to say I overcommitted myself this week, just because I feel like right now, pre-wedding, I kind of committed myself to Q1 just being a time of growth and expansion, and I knew that was going to require quite a bit of energy. But tonight, super excited. We're doing our first Healing Within class, or Health 101 class, basically an introduction. So the way we're structuring it is, you know, why are we so passionate, explaining kind of the chronic health crisis going on in our country, from kids to adults. And then, you know, 3 things I see, you know, clients or patients that get the best results. What are those 3 things that they commonly do? And then working into what I think are the five ingredients to a healthy and natural life. So that way they're known how to get the best out of their care plan, but also taking home some tangible and tactical things to share with themselves and also their family. And then not a whole lot tomorrow, which is great, as well as Thursday. But then we got Making Moves coming to do a seminar here over the weekend, which is super exciting. I have a screening Friday night, which will be interesting. We're setting up a booth at a Colleyville does like a mother, daughter, father, son type dance, or like vice versa. So father, daughter, mother, son dance. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes. And then into the weekend, man. So I kind of hate the quote living the dream, but I'm definitely out creating it this week. So what about you, man?
That's awesome, dude. We're good. More of the same stuff, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
Getting more involved in the community. We're about to launch a mom's group, launch a podcast specifically from the office.
Nice.
About to start launching some more resources, updating our offers for people, all those kind of things. But one of the things that kind of struck me whenever you were talking about that is how you were saying it was really hard yesterday because you missed like your normal routine and you're out of like your system for your day. And it kind of throws you off and it makes you feel all scrambled. And so that's kind of what we wanted to talk about today is we want to talk about our systems for day 1 and day 2 and onboarding our clients, or patients or practice members or people or friends or whoever you want to call them. But really, it's super important for when you have a new customer coming into your business. This, especially as I've learned, is for you to have all the steps laid out and for them not to know. And one of the things that Steph Wigner was talking about in our coaching groups the other day is that you have to realize that new people have never been to your office before. And we don't think about that. We're like, oh man, like all the way down to the point of just telling them like, oh, you're in the right place. That like lowers their guard so much. And then saying like, hey, you can sit in this chair, right? Having all those steps laid out for people, because when you don't have a system and you don't know where people are going, then they get super confused. So what are your thoughts on that, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that really struck out is, you know, there's a lot of hesitancy, especially post COVID. I think one, doctor's offices, I know I hate saying post COVID, but you know, doctor's offices, one, lost a lot of trust, right? There was so much misinformation going out, everything like that. Whether you're Western medicine, which we're not, but trust was definitely lost. And so creating that trust from the initial moment that someone claims a voucher on Facebook or claims your ebook, whatever your lead magnets are, meets you at a screening, really having a dialed in process to walk them through where they feel comfortable, they know what they're walking into, um, really to kind of harp on what you said to make them feel like they're in the right spot. And I literally had someone say that, yesterday. You know, don't often see chiropractic students, but this is a girl that her dad is the only chiropractor to have ever adjusted her since she was a baby. And so it took a lot for her. She wasn't wanting to go see an intern. She like doesn't really let people adjust her. And she came in the office and she's like, just the way you guys walked me through this entire process, like really makes me feel comfortable and at home. Obviously she has more awareness than probably your typical patient, but it was just really cool to hear that from someone that was a total stranger before they walk through the door, that they feel comfortable, they feel at home, and what that enables, and why it's so important to have that pre day one process, I think, is that allows for not necessarily more vulnerability, but for them to open up and actually share more about what's going on, and why they've gotten there, which then enables you in your day two process to uh, deliver in a way how you're going to help them accomplish or get out of those current situations.
Yeah, I before we get like too into the nitty-gritty of that, I really want to like paint the picture for people who are listening. You think of your new patients or your new clients or customers coming into your office for the first time the same way that you feel when you go to a new airport,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Terrifying.
You're on a flight, you know what you want your end result to be. I want to go to my destination, right? You bought the ticket, right? Meaning like you booked the visit, you know where you want to go. I want to fly into Baltimore, and you're like, yeah, I know where I want to go. I have the ticket. How do I get there? Well, you just show up, right? Okay. Well, if you just show up, there's all kind of people moving around. There's all kind of things going on. It's probably similar in your office. You probably have other people in there. You're probably not just sitting around twiddling your thumbs waiting for them.
Got
Um,
different ways you can get to the office, different
yeah,
entrances. Yep.
all of those things, and we all know that anxiety of what like waiting in security and not knowing if I'm gonna make it in time. Am I gonna make it? Am I gonna make it from my to my gate in time? I don't. And you're like, I don't know where to go. Do I go left? Do I go right? Do I take the whatever Amtrak, depending on like what airport you're in? Like, do I go here? Do I go there? Is it left? Is it right? Is it up? Is it down? All that stuff. But imagine if you had somebody the minute you show up to the airport that says, "Hey, you're so and so. Okay, well you're at the right gate. Let me help you get through security. Let me check you in. Beep 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 beep." And then, hey, if you follow me right here, this is your gate. Your flight leaves in 35 minutes. You can sit in this seat. There's a phone charger right here. The restroom is right there if you need. You'll board in 35 minutes. You're in group 2A and you're going to be sitting in seat blah, 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 blah. And you're like, oh, thanks. That's all the information. That's all my ticket. And you're like, yep, we know we were expecting you. Imagine how different your airport experience would be there. It would make
You
flying.
would you would never, whether it's at the airport or the airline itself, you would never fly anywhere else.
Yeah, exactly, right? Same thing with the restaurant. Like people walk you in, hey, this is your time. You have a reservation. This is your seat right here. Your waiter is so and so. They're going to bring you the menu. Our options are this and this. We know that you like the chicken more than you like the seafood. And so you probably also really like these drinks. Let me know if this is what works best for you, and someone will take care of you. When you have that white glove, when you have that I'm holding your hand for type system, people are more likely to trust you. And what we think is when we have a system, we're being rigid, but really what we're doing is we're being guiding, right? Really what we're doing is we're providing a sense of security, saying, hey, I know what's going on, so you don't have to worry about what's going on. Let me
Mm-hmm.
worry about you so you can worry about yourself.
Yeah, it's good.
And so that's super important, right? And then from your systems, if you know, okay, I know when this person comes in, they're going to sit down. I'm going to tell them to sit in the chair across from me because you probably like for me, we have 5 chairs in our exam room, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't want them to be sitting behind me.
Yeah.
And so you say, hey, you can sit right here in the big chair. What we're going to do today is this, this, and this. And once you hit each step, you're saying, okay, it doesn't matter how I get to step 1, 2, and 3. I know I need to get to the next one. And that's where your freedom can come from, where your personality can really shine because you know where you're going to end up.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep. Yeah. I think there's so many different, we can get into the nitty gritty in so many different ways, but I think really, especially if you're, that last year in chiropractic school, I mean, I'm laughing thinking about it, but basically you want to do the opposite of what happens in the
teach you in
student
the
clinic,
clinic. Dude,
in the
the
clinic,
clinic
right?
experience is so bad.
Yeah.
You never met your
But you
intern.
can learn a lot from it and you can implement a lot of the things that we just talked about. One thing I
So true.
did for a lot of, the externals that I would meet is I would, let them know like, hey, I'm going to meet you at this gate. Like, look for me. Let me know when you're 5 minutes out. I'll go meet you out there, especially the first time. Like Parker, whatever. It's not easy to figure out how to get to the clinic. At
Yep.
least it wasn't back in my day. And so, I would walk them into the clinic. This is where you're going to check in, and then leave it to them. I don't know what their process was. I didn't really care. And then I'd go get ready to then come meet them when my name was called, and all those types of things. And that I think helped a ton in creating um, even as little of an OVA as possible as you can, or a PVA as you can in clinic. Um, I had a lot of externals get through the 12 visits that were allotted, and I think you know a lot of that came from that initial day one process and them having trust that they were in the right spot.
Yeah, I think like one of the things that I did in clinic a lot is I would send people a picture of the map of the
Mm-hmm.
parking lot or something, saying like, "Hey, you can park here," or like you can send them a picture of the clinic, be like, "The building looks like this." And I would tell people like, when you park, let me know when you get here, and I'll meet you at the front. And so then like people would park, they would walk in, and before they would go up to the front desk, I would say like, "Hey, I'm Spencer, blah blah blah. Um, this is the front desk. You can check in. They're going to hand you some forms. And so you can fill that out. What I'm going to go do is I'm going to get things ready for you when they call me back. So I'm not watching you fill out the clipboard.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, when they call me back, then I'll take you back to the room. It'll be all ready and everything like that. And then we'll go through your visit. So
Yep.
whenever they would do that, it's really just explaining what is about to happen before it happens, right? So then people would come back, they would fill out the paperwork, and then I would go back there and be like, "Hey, okay, so what we're gonna do next is I'm gonna go over your paperwork. I'm gonna put these little things on your head. I'm gonna make you do a bunch of movements and make up some numbers, and
Mm-hmm.
then I'm gonna go and bring it to this guy. We're gonna probably have to wait 10 minutes for him to sign it, and then I'll come back and I'll touch your back, and then I'm gonna have to bring it to him again and again and again. Just expect for me to do a lot of back and forth, and like
And I think
that
I
made my
think too.
like people's clinic experience so
Yeah.
much better.
And one thing you're hitting on that we can definitely get into is you're pre-framing every step of the way,
Yep.
right? It's not this, you didn't leave to go, make sure that you're going to do straight leg raise and, slumps test. Um, you didn't just leave and then be like, oh, sorry, I was gone for 10 minutes. Like you knew it was going to take 10 minutes. Um, you can just say like this typically takes about 10 minutes. If it takes longer, I apologize, but I'm gonna do my best to get back to you as fast as I can. Now they're not sitting there like in this cold room, uh, maybe in a gown, like just unsure of what to do. And pre-framing is is just helping calm your mind, right? Like I now enjoy getting 2 hour text reminders or getting a tutorial, like downloading a new app and like actually being like, oh, I'm gonna watch like how to use this app, right? Like I just did that for the 75 hard app when I downloaded it. Like probably one of the simplest apps ever, but I watched it because I'm like, well, I want to see how they take me through this process because now I enjoy actually getting to see top tier businesses, walk you through their step by step.
Yeah, like one of the biggest things that I say, like on our day one, I say, "Hey, look, this is your first visit. Our job today is for me to get to know you, get to know where you're at, and then get some information about how your body's performing." And so what we'll do is we're going to go through the paperwork that you filled out. I'm going to tell you a little bit about chiropractic, our office, and how we look at things. And then we're going to get some information from your body with our scans, and we're going to and I'll show you how that works whenever we get to that point. So I'm kind of like leaving something to be desired, but they kind of know the
Mm-hmm.
next three steps. Then when I'm
Mm-hmm.
done with the history, I say, "Hey, so next I'm gonna tell you a little bit about our office, how we view chiropractic. Then I'm gonna get your body. We're gonna scan your nervous system, and we have a gown that you'll put on for that because the scans go on your back. Then after that, we're gonna go in the other room, and I'm gonna do a chiropractic assessment on you. So basically, I just add on the next step every time I'm telling them. And what that
Mm-hmm.
does is one, it gives them some pre-framing, knowing, okay, this is what I can expect. Two, it's like a little benchmark for me, knowing how much left of our visit we have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And three, it really slows me down and it lets me like lets me know like, okay, I've reached this point. Let me pause and take a breath before I get all excited. And it stops my brain from like running on and on and on and on and on because I know what my next step is.
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. I think
Yep.
that's his name. But he talks about negotiation and he's talking about how you can smell BS on people and about
Yeah.
how always know when someone's lying. And you know someone's lying or you know someone doesn't know what they're doing because they start to just ramble and they start to buy themselves time. Because what they're doing is they're saying, if I just word vomit, I will eventually find something that sticks and I'll run with that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So in your day one and day two, you should just have a natural end, be like, and that's the end of the conversation. On to
Yep.
the next. And what that does too is when you tell people, like, hey, this is our next process, it stops that like weird awkwardness of like, okay, and now you can follow me because they know what's coming next. So they're like, okay, this and this and this and this. So
Yeah.
whenever after our assessment, I say, hey, this is our adjusting room. This is where we'll do all of your future adjustments on the
Mm-hmm.
table. But right now, we're going to do a chiropractic assessment. After we're done with the chiropractic analysis, Logan's going to check you out for today. She's going to confirm your second visit, and I'm going to start working on your folder the minute you leave. And they're like, okay, great. So after we're done with that, I say, Logan's going to check you out now. And we'll work on your folder. When you come back, we'll do a full spine adjustment. I'll go over your
Mm-hmm.
plan and your scans, and I'll give you recommendations of care, and we'll talk about money. And they're
Yeah.
like, okay, great. And they already know.
Yeah. Yeah. And typically, yeah, a lot of topics I want to hit on there, but um, first is exactly that, like wrapping it up. And I wrap up every day one the same way. I ask them after we've gone through everything. You know, one thing I've learned from Ryan Ryder, who I'm super excited to have on the podcast in a couple weeks, is to always ask anything else, right? Always asking if there's more, because you never know what someone might think of, whether they think it's chiropractic related or not. So after the full exam, this is probably like my seventh or eighth time asking, is there anything else you thought of that would be good for me to know? More often than not, it's no. Sometimes it's like, well, I sprained my ankle when I was 5. And if they have low back pain and it was a pretty severe sprained ankle, that might actually have a big deal, right? Um, but more often than not, it's something minor. And I tell them, okay, great. I have all the information I need. Um, and I basically say the same thing you just did. And one thing that I've learned from Ryan in that process is to walk them to the front desk, not just stay in the room or like help them, like actually guiding them, holding their hand through each and every step. And he calls it the something like 3-point or uh, triangle close, not like sail close, but walking them up front and they're standing at the desk, but I'm talking to RCA
Yep.
of how we're going to check them out, right? So, hey, I just brought Bella. We just walked Bella through her first exam. Let's get her scheduled. And I always do my best to get someone scheduled within the first 24 to 48 hours. If it's a Friday, they're coming in on Monday. That's something I'm pretty hard on, and I've gotten even more stern on. I guess the older or the more I've gotten into practice. It used to be like, come in when you're ready, and they'll be like, I'll be back in a month. It's like, no, like we're both going to completely forget what's going on here. Um, so she said, Bella said she can come in tomorrow afternoon. I know we have something available then. Victoria, let's get her set up for that. Bella, it was great to meet you. I'm gonna go start working on your folder and go from there. And it's
Yeah. I
and that enables them to see like, wow, like this guy cared so much that he walked all the way up front. He has 3 or 4 people waiting for him, but he walked me up front. Now I feel confident that the CA, who's not the doctor, is actually going to be able to handle what's going on, and that also allows too. Now there's no kind of, well, he said that back there, but now like I'm up here and maybe I'm going to come in once a week. We get into that once we um, finish up care recommendations and they sign on, but it really enables and empowers the CAs in that process as well.
Yeah, this is something that they train at the joint actually, which is like actually was just one of the golden things that I took away from my experience there after all the
Mm-hmm.
reps. But they really, really harp on the handoff,
Yep.
is what they call it. And they like showed like stats of like all their, I mean, they have tons of data because they see tons of
Hmm.
people and they show their conversions of doctors who perform the handoff that they have scripted versus doctors who don't do a handoff. The conversion is like almost 3 times better
Yeah.
just because like people feel way more secure. And let's bring it back to our sports bro podcast right here. But when you watch inexperienced quarterbacks do the read option, right? When one person is
Hmm.
like, "Oh, I have the ball, I'm going to hand it off to the other one." When is the most time you have the fumble? Is when usually when the quarterback pulls out way too early, and the running back doesn't have the ball, right? So
Hmm.
one person is leaving, thinking or is waiting, thinking that something is going to be handed to them, and the other person is already assuming like, "Hey, we already got it," right? So unless it's a designed run, saying like, "Okay, I'm intentionally going to do this," there's no options. That's when the handoffs usually work the best. And so,
Hmm.
same thing with your CAs. The best way to do it is to one to hand the authority over to them. This is one of the things also that I don't know where I picked this up at, but the clipboard is like the football. So the most important person is the one who carries the thing with your customer's name on it. So in our first visit, the thing that we carry around is their clipboard with all of their exam notes and stuff and their intake form, so I can write stuff down that comes up. Then after that, their day two folder is the most important thing. And what I do is I hold on to it. I carry their folder around everywhere. I never let them hold on to it. Even when they accept care, they will
Hmm.
sign it, and I'll hold on to it. And
You'll
then
put it
once
back together. Yeah.
I'll put it back together for them, when they sign the care plan, I'll put the care plan on top, not in the pocket, because
Hmm.
it's easier for Logan just to open up the folder,
Yep.
scan it, and give it back. But after they sign it, because a lot of times some people will reach it, I'll just like ninja slide it away from them and be like, "Hey, so I'm gonna go and give this to Logan right now, and she's gonna get it all set up for you." And I give it over to Logan, and then Logan scans it. And after they schedule all their appointments, then Logan says, "This is for you. You can keep this for all of
Hmm.
your updated paperwork or anything you might get here. We'll see you back on their next visit," and
Right.
all that
Right.
stuff.
Yeah. And
Um,
I think one thing, with that as well is it keeps you, and I'm still there's still hesitancy, which is funny. Um, but it does keep you in control, and that's actually super important throughout the entire process. Not from like a power situation, but as we've been trying to harp on this episode is from a trust aspect,
yep.
right? Uh, Building trust is one of the most important things you can do, especially in that day one process. Is dropping your guard, allowing them to open up, but then also knowing like, oh wow, this place is under control. And I think especially if you're, one thing I still only so young in practice, a year and a couple months in, but I wish I knew that even sooner because you know first starting out it was so lackadaisical that I would have to imagine there are so many people if I go back and had a video recording of some of the things I was doing from a lackadaisical standpoint between not doing an office tour or the handoff or going through what to expect on day two, all those types of things. Um, I probably would have converted more people to care and really allowed to make a big impact on their life, and that's what we're doing. It's not to close a sale, right? Like that's the beauty of chiropractic. It's like when someone signs on to care, like their life, their family's life is drastically impacted.
Yeah, let's bring it back to the airplane analogy, right? I'm the analogy guy.
Oh yeah.
Imagine you're sitting on the airplane and the pilot walks out when you're in, like, you take off,
Hmm.
you're in the flight, and the pilot walks out and he sits next to you and say, "Hey, how you going?" And you look around and you're like,
Who's flying this
"Who's
plane?
flying the plane?" And you're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, don't worry about it. You're good,
Yeah.
bro."
Yeah. We're
And
friends.
we're friends, right? We're good. And you're like, "Hey, bro, I don't care.
No.
I don't care what you got to say. I don't want to talk to you
Yeah.
about. Go back
That's
and
really good.
sit in your seat."
That's really good.
Right? Like take control of this plane, right? And so if you don't have
Hmm.
control of your office and you don't have a system and your people in your office don't know that you're the one flying the plane, they will never feel safe and comfortable enough to refer their kids, refer their family. They're not going to leave you a 5-star Google review. They're going to go through their care plan because this is what they signed up for. And they're going to be like, "Oh,
Hmm.
thank God I didn't get hurt. Thank God I wasn't paralyzed. Thank God
Yeah.
I didn't have a stroke. I didn't get injured. Thank God." and they're going to be like, I flew that airline once and it was all right. And if in a pinch, I'll probably go back again, but
Hmm.
I'm not going
But
to have I'm not
yeah,
sitting in their
yeah.
premier flyers
I'm
lounge.
not, I'm not signing up for their credit card and, trying to rack up miles.
And it's the same thing with your staff. You're the doctor, you're the pilot, right?
Hmm.
When you have associates, that's your co-pilot. But if somebody's like, I'm the co-pilot, I'm flying the plane now. Even though they're a pilot, even though they know way better than you, your confidence in them is just a little bit lower, right?
Hmm.
So that's your job as the leader, as the CEO to say, like, I am the pilot. These are my co-pilots. I trust them
Yeah,
fully. You can trust them as well.
yeah.
No, I'm flying the plane. And say the pilots go down, they're like, oh, I'm snoozing. You're probably looking at the flight attendants and you're like, hey, you know better than me. And they're like, that's not my training. That's not what I do. So for your CAs to like try to be in charge of your office, for your CAs to be try in charge of people's care, unless you're the one directing them, saying like this goes here, this goes there,
Hmm.
right? Then they're not the pilot either. They're here to help attend to the people in your plane, in your ship where you're
Yeah,
going, but you have to be the one ultimately holding the wheel.
yeah. That's one thing Josh, my CA, is phenomenal at. Like he doesn't budge, right? Like he's seen what the results we've gotten in our office. Um, and someone's like, like, you know, 2 times a week would be better for me. He's like, well, we're gonna find a third day. We got 8 shifts in here. Like we're other than Saturdays, we're open 5 days a week. And we're open till 6. When can you get here for that third visit? And he'll like I at first I would get kind of upset because he would be up there with patients for like 20, 30 minutes, like trying to work through their schedule just to get them in for 3 times a week. Um, and now I'm like, dude, stay with them as long as you need to. And one thing we actually just implemented was, part of the process now when someone commits to care is we get them booked out until their progress exam,
Yep.
their first progress, which is something that's been great for many reasons. Um, but it's like we care so much about you, like just paid for the care. Let's get you to that first progress exam, um, and then go from there.
Yeah. Like, hey, here's a question for you. Do you
Mhm.
book your day two on the phone with people?
Sometimes
Yeah.
we it's our goal. Um, it's typically our goal, but if someone's driving or
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a feel out thing. But it's definitely our goal to schedule out the day two.
Same. So how do you know when someone's day two is when they schedule it?
What do you mean?
Like when you're doing a consult with them, do you already know when their day two is?
Like when I go into a day one,
Yeah.
I know if they've already pre-booked. My
So
my team
do
my team lets me know.
Yeah, the easiest thing that I've had Logan do is when she prints out
Hmm.
the intake form, she's already got it in her hand and there's a pen right by our printer.
Yeah,
She'll just write D2
yeah,
and she'll either say Thursday, 3 o'clock, all that stuff.
yeah.
So then I can go into a level of specificity instead of saying, hey, I already know you booked your day two.
Hmm.
I can literally say hey, when you come back in Thursday evening, right?
Hmm.
That gives way more trust, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever I'm talking about pre-framing the day two, saying like, hey, in your first day, we're gonna get to know you, you're gonna get some information. In your second day, I'm gonna
Hmm.
give you my recommendations. We'll do a full spine adjustment. I can always say, hey, and I know you didn't schedule that out yet, so let's make sure that we schedule that with Logan for as soon as possible. And so I'd like to see you on Monday if we have some space.
Yeah.
And like we'll say that. And it's like, dude, it's one of the easiest like 3 second add-ons that's made a huge
Hmm.
difference because now I'm not trying to like BS people into thinking that I know when their appointment is. Like I know it's right there in
Hmm.
front of me.
Yeah. I think one thing too, it's funny, and I'm sure you've had this happen. But when people like I'll mention the 24 to 48 hours, like day two, um, as I'm opening the door, kind of to bring them to the front. And they're like, oh, well, I can maybe. I'm like, don't worry about it. Like Josh and Victoria, that's their specialty. They're gonna get you hooked up there. I trust them to get that handled for you. Again, to empower the CAs and give them back that control. Because one thing you had mentioned is like, the flight attendants, the CAs, they're not in charge of flying the plane. Um, but the flight attendants are in charge of making sure that the passengers have the best experience possible,
Yep.
and making sure that they feel safe, they feel secure, and if you have a layover or you're changing planes, knowing what gate you're flying into, this is how to get there. Um, that's what makes a great flight attendant. It's the same with the CA. is really making. I do love like the whole care advocate, chiropractic assistant care advocate. I do like that because it does, that's what they're doing. They're making sure you're getting the care you need. That's their ultimate goal.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what you call them, dude.
Yeah, no.
People don't care about their title; they care about how much you value
Yeah.
them. And
Yep.
same thing with your staff, dude. You can call them chiropractic assistant, CA, office manager, care director, blah 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 blah
Yeah.
blah. It doesn't matter what you
Yeah.
call them; it matters how you treat them.
I call
But
them CA because when they go to a conference and if they were the care director and we were at a conference and they're like, all the CAs stand up, they'd be like, not me. Like, go
yeah,
to the CA, and I'm like, I just don't want to deal with that.
yeah. But what? Yeah, one of the things that I also learned too, I forget what kind of little tidbit, like where I got this from, but it's talking when you're doing the handoff. You talk to the CA
Yeah.
in
About
the
them.
affirmative about them. You say like,
Hmm.
"Hey, this is Zach. Uh, we just got Zach, or like Zach's gonna do a 28 visit care plan and stuff. He's paying through option two, so he's gonna
Hmm.
come in 3 times a week. Afternoons probably work best for him because he works until 5 o'clock. And
Yeah.
so let's get him in a spot between 5:30 and 6, probably Monday, Wednesday,
Hmm.
Friday. Zach says that works best for him,
Yeah.
and we're gonna rescan Zach in 1 month. And
Yep.
so and then I turn to them and I say, hey, Logan's going to get you on the schedule for three
Hmm.
times a week. She's going to process your payment and give you your folder right back. Okay, I'll see you
Yeah.
again on Monday. Or
Yep. Boom. And one thing, you know, I haven't implemented yet, and I'm hesitant to, but I know it's an old school Cairo type thing is calling after their first adjustment, um, and to check in, and that's something I think I
send a text.
should implement is like either a text or a call, that way they, especially if it's a Thursday or Friday, they don't go into the whole weekend like without hearing from you. But one thing we do implement is a thank you card. So it's part of our new patient checklist. Um, we've gotten them booked out to the progress exam. We've collected payment. If they're going monthly, we got them on a monthly recurring, whether it's the first, 15th, or 25th. Um, you know, we got all this information rescanned in. Um, and then lastly is a thank you card. So Josh and Victoria write up the addresses, they stamp it, then I write the thank you card, and it's the same thank you for the most part. Sometimes I'll add in, if there's something that we kind of was like a ongoing joke or theme, I'll mention that. But it's typically a thank you card that gets put in the mail within 2 to 3 days, um, minimum like maximum 2 to 3 days of them signing on to care.
Yeah, I think that's like an atomic habit thing. This will probably be our last point, but I want to get this in while we're talking about it.
Hmm.
I'm about to start implementing thank you cards, but like welcome cards, like not like thank you for signing up for care because like
Yeah.
people should sign up for care. Uh, it's
Hmm.
our job to get them to the close.
Hmm.
Chiropractors, we are really good at talking people out of coming see us.
Yeah.
So make it simple, make it like people know that they're gonna pay. People know
Make it
you're a
a
doctor.
make it about them.
People know that it's not $20 a visit. Unless it
Hmm.
is, kudos to you. I want to make more money than that. Like I don't want to see a billion. That's a whole nother conversation. But people know they're going to pay. People know you're going to offer them something at the end. So just make it really simple. Stop being like, yeah, and so, and blah, blah, blah to help you out. There's a discount. Dude, this is what it is. You want option one or option two. That's it.
Hmm.
And so then we're going to say once they sign on, uh, the day that we close out their payment, I'm gonna get a welcome card. It's a postcard. It's just gonna say "Welcome to Empower Chiropractic" on the front. On the back side, it's gonna say "We're so glad to have you a part of our community and to support you along your health and wellness journey, Dr. Spencer." And
Yep.
that's gonna go in the mail there. The minute that I sign it, I'm gonna send them a templated text message saying like, "Hey, so and so, how was your first adjustment? Wanted to check in and see how you're feeling tonight,"
Hmm.
or something like that.
Yeah.
And then they'll check in, they'll say back,
Yeah.
and you just reply, "Great, see you soon."
Yep.
But that's
And
stacking, right? So you're getting
yeah.
all this communication, all this check-in stacked up, and where you're doing
Hmm.
it all at the same time, and you make it habitual.
And you're slowly becoming front of mind for them, right? And that slowly works into that subconscious, um, where you know it does work into referrals as well. Where now you're constantly in their phone, in their email. Now you're in their mailbox. Like wow, like I've never had a doctor's office do this for me, um, and it's again bringing out that white glove. And to add to that point, one last thing that it's a it's not necessarily a Q1 goal. It doesn't really match what we're looking to do, but it's back of mind. Um, Pretty much have it pre-built out, but it's a workflow through Go High Level where, when someone signs on to care, they go like, basically there's like a spreadsheet that people move through, kind of the pipeline, if you will. As soon as we move someone from day 2 to accepted care, now they're in a, once a
Drip
week
sequence.
they're getting an email. Here are things to expect after your first adjustment. Here are ways to better your adjustments. Hey, we have a movement workshop that you haven't come to yet. We have a health 101 class. Um, you know, all these different types of things.
Yeah, we have all that. Actually, that's what I was about to talk to you about whenever we close up the podcast. But I was going to tell you about kind of what we're doing so we can bounce some
Mm-hmm.
ideas off. But that's exactly
Yeah.
what I'm doing too. So people get the card 48 hours after they
Mm-hmm.
sign on to care. They'll be enrolled in a drip sequence that nurtures them each week about what they can expect. I have a couple gifts and freebies that people are going to get in there. Like I have a massage discount
Mm-hmm.
for like a really awesome massage that people say, hey, look, we just feel like you're working so hard on yourself. You deserve a little extra TLC. Here's a
Mm-hmm.
coupon for a massage
Yeah.
and all those kind of things. And so it's pretty cool. But we'll talk about that probably next episode because that's something great that everybody and especially startups should think about. And we'll talk about retention
Yeah.
later on. That's a big theme for us. So,
But definitely be sticking around. We got just to pre-frame. We got Colton and Lacey Neville coming out next week, which is going to be amazing. You want to talk about day 1, day 2 patient experience? They rock it. And then we got Ryan Ryder, 6 clinics at one point. So if he knows anything about anything, it's patient experience. And then quite a few other big guests coming on. So super excited there.
yeah, thanks so much, guys, for listening to another episode of the What Now podcast. Peace. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the What Now podcast. If you took something valuable away, feel free to share it with a friend, post it on your socials, or give us a 5-star review. We'll see y'all next time. Peace.